What about the T? And the mayor was just talking about light rail. And I'm curious where you stand on these various forms of public transportation and how vital or not are they to your vision?
Well, I think for a growing, vibrant city, you have to have public transportation. You have to look at your long-range planning. I think the streetcar was probably pulled down solely because of the funding, because the economy went south at that point. But overwhelmingly, the citizens have said they want streetcars. We have to look at alternative types of transportation. The T needs to be encouraged to offer more incentives for riders, better routes, so to move people in. But a growing, vibrant city won't get there without some type of alternative transportation. We can't build enough streets or parking lots, nor can we have that much pollution in our air. And the light rail is a great idea. It's a vision for the future. But if we don't start planning for the future now, we won't get there.
Mm-hmm. How far into the future do you think it may be?
Light rail?
Yeah, because that's certainly what public sentiment.
Commuter rail is probably coming first. Mm-hmm. And commuter rail, I would not think commuter rail is that far out. I think probably 5 to 10 years on commuter rail. And light rail may follow quicker than, at $4 a gallon, or where are we now, $3.50? We may see rail following much quicker.
Something else that was shelved for dollar reasons was the trolley plan. And I'm wondering if you are committed to that in the future when and if there's money, and also where you stand with perhaps expanding the T or instituting or planning and funding over time light rail.
I am 100% committed to the establishment of an overall comprehensive public transportation system that includes commuter rail, light rail, and modern streetcars as the last mile transportation. We have got to connect this city, the different areas of this city. Our neighbors to the east.
Dallas.
Dallas, okay. I wanted you to say it first.
Or not Arlington, right?
Not Arlington. Are years ahead of us in terms of public transportation. If we don't connect the downtown business sector to the 7th Street corridor and to North Side and the Southeast Side and the near South Side, all of which are in their process of development, then we're going to stifle that development. One of the reasons that we have to commit ourselves to the public transportation plan, including streetcars, is that we've got to encourage development of the urban village concept in urban planning, because the difference between the taxes that can be, the ad valorem taxes that can be raised in a typical suburban setting for 1 square mile as compared to an urban village setting for 1 square mile, the difference is $200 million. Now that's the kind of increase in our tax revenues that we can't afford to pass up. Not only that, it's the type of thing that will ensure that Fort Worth continues to be the vibrant business and cultural center that it already is.
How do you then pay for it?
Through special special use districts, TIFs, the T, and the federal grants. It would have required the expenditure of $0 from the general fund of Fort Worth.
There was a rail plan, a trolley plan. City Council expressed a desire for and then said we can't afford it and didn't fund it last fall. Are you committed to that plan? And what about expansion of or extended use of the T?
We discussed this in 1995 when I was on the council. This is nothing new. You know, Fort Worth is a great city and we have great vision. We have not had much vision on mobility though. And that's going to be a real issue. If we're not careful, we're going to stifle ourselves. We're not going to be able to move. In fact, I think we're already there, because anybody that tries to go from Fort Worth to Dallas at 8 o'clock in the morning, you may or may not get there by noon. And it's going to take a real plan by the city council and the business community and everyone else to realize that we got to get Bubba out of the truck is one of the first issues. I mean, we are a society here, I think more in Fort Worth than anywhere else, that wants to drive their car or their pickup, and we're going to have to change people's attitudes. And we're going to have to expand the rail, in my opinion. We can do that up to Alliance. There are some rails that are there. It's just going to take some some real vision, and we're going to have to make sure that the federal government helps us out with that. Transportation is not just a local issue, it's a state and federal issue. They're the only ones that can help finance those type of massive projects.
So is that the way you hope to sell it, since basically the vision is one thing, paying for it is another?
But you have to go to a local option. You have to give the voters a chance to vote on that. And I think the people of Fort Worth might vote for a rapid transit type of tax, but it's going to have to be well explained, and you're going to have to go out and put on a campaign.
I'm curious about your views on expanding the T, use of rail, light rail.
We have an excellent transportation board. I was a member of that I would say that because I was a member of it. But actually, we did strategic planning, and constantly that has been revisited to make sure that we can have efficient transportation systems. You know, there are two types of transit riders. There's transit dependent, and we have far more of those than we actually realize, and then choice riders. Luckily, the T has made decisions that will expand transit opportunities for both, and I'm fully supportive of what they're doing. The most exciting news is the commuter rail service that will start in Fort Worth, hopefully in 2013. They're waiting for a little bit more federal funding, which they should get, and that will be a commuter rail service that uses existing rail, so the cost to the taxpayer is very low, which is the big issue. Is how do we can say we need it, which we do, there's no question, but how do we fund it? That particular service will actually go from the south part of Fort Worth all the way, dissecting a lot of the areas that are where transit-dependent riders are and choice riders all the way into the airport. I think that we can look at alternatives. I think it's easy to want to assume that light rail is the only alternative, but there are many others that we can look at. Other cities have gone to more efficient, naturally gas-powered, smaller bus vehicles that have more variable routes. So those are important decisions that we have to make, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
What are your thoughts on expanding the T, on adding rail, light rail, and your hopes for any expansion of public transportation, and can the city afford it?
If we are going to be economic leaders in North Texas, innovative leaders in North Texas, we have to invest. We have to be the first to invest in major rail. And whether it's light rail, commuter rail, whether it is expanding the T, which I do support, we have to do it quickly. People want this. And people want alternative ideas of transportation as well. They want bike lanes that are going to get them from point A to point B. People like to ride their bikes. Great. Let's make certain that the lanes are in place. Let's make certain that sidewalks have adequate lighting so people can walk them at night and feel safe. Ultimately, we have to be willing to invest in that. How we're going to pay for it? Well, it's a combination of, if we invest in it, and I think you can go to Mockingbird Station in Dallas or anywhere else and see that these train stops have basically allowed these mini cities to spring up. And it's wonderful. And if you invest in that, the businesses will come. It's a question of having someone to go in and say, let's do it. Let's find places that are strategic to North Texas and Fort Worth so that these businesses can come and be built up.